So in the previous video, we learned how to add files and directories to the Git index or staging area. In this video, let's go ahead and actually commit these files to the Git database. I'm going to open my terminal and I'm going to navigate to our folder that we've been working with, and that's the Git repos home folder. And then we're going to start by looking in the blank repo folder. CD space blank repo. And you can see we've got that resume of tim.txt that we added in the previous video. Alright, so the command to actually commit these files, to add them to the Git database, we type in git space commit space -m, and I'm going to type in some text here, initial commit. So I'm going to press enter to see what happens first, and then we're going to discuss what I just did. So commit is the command that we're using from the Git command line to commit the file. The -m is the optional flag to add an inline commit message. And so we're able to actually incorporate a message that is appropriate for this commit. And I use the very basic comment initial commit to indicate that this is the first time we've added files to the repository. But this is something that you can add literally any text that you want to, and would be particularly useful in the case of a particular change. Maybe you'd be putting the details of why you've created or made these changes, so that if you're looking at it in the future, or another programmer is, they can sort of see why you actually committed this particular set of file, or this particular file change, or new files, etc. Alright, so what's actually happened after? So after that command, you can see here we've got a few lines of text there. Firstly, the master that you can see on the line directly below the git commit line, that means that the commit occurred on the master branch. And this number here, which is probably going to be different for your computer, in my case it's 135FA17, this is the commit ID, or just a hash that's been assigned by Git and uniquely identifies the commit. Now, in more technical terms, if you're interested in that, it's actually what's called a SHA-1 checksum. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But as we go down, we can also see here that the copy of the message that we used when we used the git commit line with the message parameter. And moving down, we've got one file changed, 4 insertions. And that says that we've committed one file, and that file actually had 4 lines, including the carriage return. And down here, the create mode. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. And then finally here we can see that the resume of tim.txt, that's the actual file name that Git's telling us that it actually added to the repository. Now note at this point now we haven't got any statuses on the prompt with a hash or a plus. Obviously before that command here, the master, we had a plus there indicating that there was a file that had been added. But now that we've actually committed it, that has been changed. Basically that now means we've got a clean working directory and everything has been committed to Git. Alright, so let's switch now to the other repository and try the equivalent command over there. So I'm going to go cd space ... and I'm going to type cd space, I'm just going to type conv, press tab, and we're now in that converted folder. And notice that we've got a plus there showing, indicating that we have got files that need to be committed to the repository. So I'm going to type clear now just to start with a clear slate there. So let's now commit those files, bearing in mind that unlike the blank repository that only had one file, we've actually got quite a few files here to add. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do git space commit space -m, and we'll put initial project imported. Again, you could put initial commit or whatever you like there, but I'm just going to change it up a little bit and type that. Now I'm going to press enter. And you can see what's happened in this case. We've actually got quite a few files that have been added. We've got 20 files changed and a total of 2070 insertions, which is the various changes on all the various files. So we've still got the similar information at the top here. We've got the master branch and a unique hash that we talked about as well. But basically all those files have now been committed to the Git database. And finally, notice also that the prompt has now changed. We no longer have got the plus like we have got up here, which means that we've got a clean working directory and everything's updated and has been added to the repository. Alright, now talking a bit more about this hash up here, and noting that this is a completely different number than it was the first time, and it's highly likely that it'll be different on your computer as well. Without going into too many details, it's actually a hash, or in more technical terms known as a SHA-1 checksum. Now this SHA-1 is file encryption, also known as cryptography, and it's a standard way to protect file data. So here the checksum is basically used to ensure file integrity, meaning there's a check there for file corruption, etc. So it's really just a checksum that is used by Git, but it's not really something you need to know too much about at this stage. So we're going to just leave that for now. The other thing, just very briefly, I wanted to talk about is these numbers here. There's 100644. It does seem to be a cryptic number, but it's used by Git to show the file mode using the classical Unix notations. Now, if you're on a Mac or on a Linux machine, you might be familiar with things like 644, which is a standard file mode. Basically, the first two digits indicate the file type, and the other digits have got special, sort of unique significance when creating files. But this is really an advanced topic, and it doesn't really serve any particularly useful purpose for us to know, other than the fact that the files have been added to the Git database, and that we're actually good to go. Alright, so that's the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to start looking at how we can check a repository's status. So I'll see you in the next video.